Hello wherever I'm in this Jaden's videos, and I am here with my final Spirit Halloween 2021 animatronic review of this season, and this is on Evelyn Leech. She's being sold at Spirit Halloween for $199.99, more on that price later. Evelyn here is a really cool prop, and I would consider her the Miss Mercy of 2021. What I would mean by that is, for one, I mean, yes, she's made by the same company, so she has the same type of build and stuff, same type of setup, all of that. But that's not even what I truly mean. What I mean is she's the prop of the year that I think is the creepiest, and the one that really is the most realistic. Miss Mercy was definitely that last year, the creepiest and most realistic. And that is what Evelyn is this year. She has that same type of vibe that's just extremely unsettling that Miss Mercy had. We're just looking at her, gives off a very unsettling vibe. Now, Evelyn's a really cool prop, and I can't wait to dive into it. I love bride props and stuff like that, mostly because of my love of the Haunted Mansion, and that's one of the main reasons I got her, because of my Haunted Mansion themed haunt this year. However, I have no clue how I'm going to use her in the haunt, because the bee-headed bride is my main character this year. I can't have more than one bride, so I'll have to do some temporary modifications to the prop to try to make her work. But she still looks very ghostly and Haunted Mansion and Victorian-like, that I still thought she would work very well for the haunt, even if I don't use her as a bride. But we'll see what happens. I can figure something out. I just thought she'd be perfect for the haunt nonetheless, and she's just a really cool one that I wanted to have because she is a great prop. Now, a lot of the cool things about this prop are her detail, and that is what I'm going to get into first with her. I'm just going to basically talk about her and show her detail and stuff and give you a closer look at Evelyn Leech. Now, here she is, and her veil you can put behind her too, which is actually how they have her displayed on the box, but I prefer it in front, to be honest. I know most people prefer it behind so you can get a better look at her face, but I just think she looks creepier with it in front of her face. And she looks more ghostly, which for the purposes I'll need her for, that is what I want her to look like. Her veil is also removable. I did not know this. I was told that it was glued on, but it's actually not. It's got bobby pins at the top, so you just slide it out of there. So it is removable. So if you don't want to use her as a bride, you definitely don't have to, which I probably won't this season. So, you know, that's actually a really good thing to know. But really, one of the coolest things about this prop is her detail. She's got some phenomenal detail. She truly looks professional in a way with her paint job and everything. It looks like a real human face. There's some real emotion in there, and I think that's really, really incredible for a spirit prop. She does have a lot of emotion. You can see the tear stains coming from her eyes with her dripping mascara. Her eyebrows are kind of curved in. She's got a lot of wrinkles and stuff on the top of her forehead that to make her really look like she's crying. There's just so much texture and detail to her face. And one surprising thing is, this is plastic. I forgot what material it was made out of, because obviously I saw her at Flagship, but I forgot what material it was, and I thought it was latex or something. But it's actually plastic, and that's surprising because usually latex is what you'd find this cool detail in, but it's actually plastic, which is pretty weird and pretty cool. But also, I think having it be plastic was a good decision because it makes it shine, and so it makes it look more like she's been actually crying with her face actually shining like that. I think that's really cool. It's very interesting that she's a human prop, since she's the centerpiece of the prop. It is very interesting that she's a human because typically we don't see that. Typically our props would be monsters and stuff, which I'm glad we're getting a human, because humans can definitely be cool characters too for Halloween. I mean, Buzzsaw's a human. He's just a serial killer, and that's perfect. Instead of having like a monster serial killer, getting an actual human serial killer, or getting her, because obviously monsters will always reign supreme. Monsters are the best, but having human characters definitely works a lot for a haunt or a display or anything, and telling a story, because in a story there's not only going to be monsters, there's going to be humans like this, and usually props are the villains themselves. She is not a villain in this scenario. She's literally a girl who's crying over her dead husband, so she's really good as a background character, or even as a main character that can be like a protagonist in a haunt or a haunt story. And I think that's a really strong thing that we need more of. We need more props like that that aren't... Obviously, villain props will always be my favorite because that's what Halloween is based around, is the evil characters. But I think having some human props in there definitely helps a lot in telling a story, so I'm really happy that we got that. Her hair's really nice. It actually looks very real, and I'm really impressed with it. She's got a pretty long veil, really good quality too. And speaking of good quality, let's move on down to her dress, which is phenomenal quality. It looks like a real dress. Why, Jay? really does do some great stuff, especially in recent years. I mean, with the quality and stuff, they're really good. This looks like a real dress. It's got the lace pattern. It's not just some generic white dress. It actually looks really good. You have her IR sensor right there, and she does have some cleavage. So honestly, that's a good thing because it shows the amount of detail that was put into this prop. I mean, most female props are going to have that, but it looks real. She looks like a real person, and I know it's kind of funny to just say on a video, but I mean, hey, it really adds to the detail of the prop, and I really appreciate that because extra added details that make her look more realistic are always great. You move on down here, and of course, you have the rest of her flowing dress, and I'm going to reposition the camera here and move on down to her groom's head, which is my least favorite part about the prop, and I don't like it at all, and I'm going to complain about it. Just be prepared. Before I get on to the negative that is her groom's head, I will mention a positive, and that's her hands. They look very real, really nice looking, and she's even got some nail polish on them to give a little pinkish texture to her fingernails. Really makes it look real. I mean, these hands look incredibly realistic. It's really impressive. They've got so much texture and everything in them. It's just, like I said, the detail on this prop is phenomenal, except for the groom's head, which I'm going to do a bit of complaining about here because I'm not a fan of it at all. I really would have actually preferred, I like the concept of it, but the fact that it looks like this, I'd rather not have it be a part of the prop at all. I mean, it's bad. It's not horrible, but it's not good. And I'm definitely going to touch it up a bit. I will say that. I'm probably going to add some blood and stuff to it because it's got no blood whatsoever and it's a decapitated head. You've got a little bit of red on the very bottom, but it's red plastic and it's flat and it looks bad. I really do not like how this head looks. I like the expression it has, I like the coloring of it, but I do not like the way it looks at all. It looks very plasticky, it looks very fake, it's not scary, and it really does not contrast well with the character considering how real Evelyn looks and how disturbing she looks and then this cartoony head. I don't like it. I really wish the head looked better, but I am going to touch this up a bit. And usually I don't touch up my props because usually I don't like to do that because I like to keep them original. But in this case, I just really think that touching up this head a bit with some blood and stuff will really help it look a lot better, and so I probably will. It's, like I said, it's alright, but it's not the best. Obviously the light up eyes I'm not a fan of. I'm not going to use it with the light up eyes for the sake of this video. I will, just to show you how it is. I personally am not going to use it with the light up eyes because I think that takes away from it, especially a character like this where it's not even supposed to be a monster or anything. It's just a decapitated head. I think the light up eyes kind of ruin it. But it's still cool. Obviously her dress flows all the way to the bottom there. Now let me reposition this camera and let's continue talking about the girl herself. Now speaking about the detail, they also, her whole stature and everything looks really realistic. She's got an hourglass figure, so they definitely made her look like an actual real girl. They gave her a gluteus maximus as well, using the proper name, a butt. They gave her that as well, which, again, it's just like some random thing, but it just shows the amount of effort they put into this. They have foaming back there to give it shape, and it's like, they went above and beyond making her look like a real person, and that I applaud them for because it looks really realistic, and I can definitely see people mistaking it for a real person in the haunt just because the whole shape and everything of it just looks so real. And that's hard to come across with a prop. There are props, like for Buzzsaw, for example. I was talking about in my review of him how detailed his face is and how good it looks. However, obviously, you're not going to think he's a real person because his stature and everything in his body, you can tell it's an animatronic. Evelyn, in the dark, because they made her body and everything, in all of her proportions and everything about her look so real, I definitely can think that someone would see her as being a real person. And this was the same case with Miss Mercy, too, which is why Miss Mercy was so creepy. It's the same thing with Evelyn. So whatever YJ's doing with these props, I mean, it's kind of weird because we only get like one prop that's hyper realistic from YJ a year, and then they always give us one sucky one next to it, Night Stalker. It's just kind of weird that they do that, but I really hope they keep doing that. And yes, that was Night Stalker slander because Night Stalker is my least favorite in-store prop of the year. I hate that thing with a passion. That's besides the point. Evelyn is a great prop. Now, one thing I'm going to say I don't like about her, and though I will show her in action in a second, besides the groom head, which I already said I don't like her price at all. I think she is the most overpriced prop of the year, and I don't understand it in the slightest. It honestly makes me think that sometimes they don't really take into account the pricing of their other props when they're pricing stuff. Yeah, she has some amazing detail, but I mean, it's not like it's a latex head or anything that gets the like foam-filled latex. It's just a plastic head that they did good detail on. She does have some great detail, but typically Spirit doesn't take that into account when pricing their stuff, as we can see most of the time. Most of the time their prices are based on how tall a prop is and stuff like that, which again, I think that's not a good way to price things. But really, for her, I don't understand it, because she's really cool, but even with the detail, even if you're going to say, okay, she's got a lot of cool detail, makes her more worth it, I still don't think it should be $200, because she's only about 5 feet tall, which, I mean, is a good height. I think she's a good size, but she should be cheaper because she's that small. But also, she only has one animation, and it's not even a very noticeable animation. She hardly moves her arms, and she lifts it up a little bit to show the groom's head. That should not be $200. I was willing to get her because I really, really like her, but I really wish she was like $150. I don't, and I can't get behind her being $200. I really can't. As hard as I try to justify it just because I like the prop, I can't. It's just the most overpriced prop of the year, for sure. She's still a good one though. She's still great, and I wouldn't say, if you really like her, like I'll always say, if you really like the prop, don't let the price turn you away from it, because if you really like it and you know you're going to use it and you know you're going to be happy with the purchase, don't not get it just because the price is overpriced, because there's not really anything you can do about that. So I would not say let that price turn you away from the prop. If you know you'll use it and you know you'll be happy with it, go ahead and get her. I just really wish that it would have been cheaper, and I think that is something that does need to be pointed out so they can do better prices on stuff like this in the future. But without further ado, let's get into her activation, and then I'll discuss it, and then we'll close out this review. So she has incredibly creepy audio, and it's one of my favorite things about her. I love her audio. I feel like if she would have talked or something, it would have taken away from the prop, but the audio they gave her is really great, and it was a perfect choice. I love the crying. It sounds very real, sounds very emotional. It's really good, and it's very creepy. I love the bell tolling in the background. I think that really adds to the creep factor as well. The only thing, I do like the gasping of the groom's head. I like how it sounds. I think it was well done, and I think it's creepy. However, I wish they would have gone without it. And my reason why, I know I give so much slander to the groom. I do love the concept of the groom's head. I just wish they would have done it a little bit better. Because the thing with the groom's head is the fact that it gasps really makes it seem like, you know, it's a zombie head or something. I think it would have been a lot creepier. It kind of takes away from the creepiness when you think of it like that. I think it would have been a lot creepier if it's just this severed head that's just completely dead and she's lifting it up to show you without it being like a zombie or whatever. I mean, sure, you can say that he's in his last few seconds of life and he's like, you know, still hanging on a little bit, because they have done research and the brain can still function for a few seconds after you've been decapitated. But I would assume by the time she's been able to pick this head up, lift it up and show you, that few seconds of brain function would have already stopped. So I mean, I'm getting very technical, but usually when you see this, you're going to think it's like a zombie. The average person will, which I don't like that. I love zombies, but I don't think that works very well for this prop. I would have preferred if it was a severed head, and yes, I can mute the prop, of course, but I like the rest of the audio other than that. Luckily, the gasp is kind of drowned out by the crying, so it's not too bad. With that out of the way, her animation, it could have been better. I wish she would have done a little bit more. Or, I don't know, she could have turned her head away. I think that would have been cool, is if while she was lifting up the groom's head, she turns her head away like she doesn't want to look at it. I think that would have been really cool, and it definitely would have justified the price some more. I think just the lifting up is a little underwhelming, but I think for this prop, which you're really The reason you'd want it is just because of how cool the concept is and how creepy she looks, and I really like that about her. I do think she's a great prop, and I highly recommend her if she's one that you want to get. She is a good one. She's a little pricey, but she is a good one for sure. And if you like this type of thing, I think you should get her. I don't know when the next time we'll get a bride prop is, because it's not very often. So if you like bride props, you should get her, which was my ultimate deciding decision. Was, you know, I love bride props and we don't get very many. She can work in my haunt theme this year if I make some adjustments. I'm going to go ahead and get her, and I'm glad that I did. So if you like her, go get her while you can. I would rate Evelyn a 7 out of 10. I think she's a pretty good animatronic. Maybe more of a good static than an animatronic because her animation isn't too stellar. But obviously I would want to use her with the animation just to get that awesome crying in there because I love her audio. But I hope you all enjoyed this review of Evelyn Leech. Keep howling at the moon, my werewolves.